VJ, the brother from the ancient mother. Once again, Headspace says welcome to South Africa's most poignant hip-hop podcast, where we focus on the hip-hop culture as it's unfolded and is currently unfolding throughout the continent, whether it's breaking, whether it's graph writing, and of course everybody's favorite aspect of the culture, MCing. Here is the review segment where I talk about the projects that artists in the continent, particularly in this country, are putting out, and what this is a reflection of how we can truly understand and assess these projects in the course of our history as lovers of the culture in Africa, in South Africa. Once again, like I said, my name is Viwe Joka, aka VJ, brother from the ancient mother. And if you're not a subscriber or somebody that's been following this channel for the consecutive periods that we've kind of just been, we've been at it right now. We've been doing this shit.
Like a year now. Yeah, we've been consistent for a year.
Ne?
Yeah.
Consistency, papa.
Yeah.
You know? It ran, obviously, by Takeza, myself, and the invisible third figure of Fritz Kroid. And we make up the Headspace. So, if you haven't subscribed, I don't know why on earth you haven't. But maybe this is the episode that will get you on. So, I'm reviewing a project from one of the young go-getting trap artists of the GQ scene. GQ, for those who kind of haven't caught yet, is Deja, formerly known as PE. My phone is going bananas, guys. I hope my girlfriend doesn't call me again like the last episode. But as I was saying, love you, baby. As I was saying, the Headspace focuses on the culture from an investigative and a critical standpoint. And I've been very critical of trap artists. I've been so critical of trap artists that I'm getting a lot of hate on TikTok because niggas think that all I am is some OG rap pundit who's just dedicated his whole life at shitting at young talent. No, guys. I am a lover of the culture who comes at it at the point of view of the politics that the culture puts us in. Because we are not divorced or devoid from the politics, and being aware of the politics of hip-hop and how it plays into the politics of blackness, the politics of capitalism, is going to empower us. And isn't that what we want from hip-hop? Isn't that what we got into hip-hop for? Because every time we either listen to a rap music, we watched or are ourselves breakers. Every time we tagged on a wall, if that's our inspiration, every time we kind of heard the scratches of a DJ or saw a DJ bringing it down at a party, we felt empowered, and it. So empowerment is the end all be all of what we're doing or trying to do. So I personally, as a critical theorist and as somebody who kind of brings myself as a talking head of this podcast, do what I do because I'm trying to get us a little bit closer in analyzing the politics that are at play. Anyways, Saantsi, fire brand, been doing this thing for a minute now. When I say a minute in today's trap language is a couple of years. Yeah. It isn't like a long time, because you know, 1 year is like 10 years with the space of internet hype and the energy of like young generation X techno mania. But what it is it's a beautiful moment for us to understand the value of time. And in this value of time, in how just a glimpse can turn into a whole lifetime, Saantsi is the kind of artist who can get you lost in that eternity. And I think all trap artists, all good trap artists, are good at this. They're good at getting you lost in a couple of minutes and making you feel like that was years. Because there's a ecstatic transcendency about real good trap music. It seeks to lift you off the ground. It's 808s punch in your ears and deep in your heart in ways that really are there to cause an out-of-body experience. This is why niggas love Future. Not because he projects towards what is possible in music culture, not because he's bandit flows and inspired a whole generation, but because when you see his music play in clubs, people are not in their bodies. People are somewhere in some spirit world. And don't you think that that power is something that even the OG cypher heads aspire to do? Anyways, I'm getting carried away. Saantsi drops two projects consecutively parallel to each other. One is called The Strongest Deja Vu, and the second chapter is called Children of the Mud. I don't know if he deliberately wrote and created this project as separate chapters of a single moment, but I'll assume such because sonically it feels like that. I'm gonna first start with the first 9-track offering because they're both 9 tracks, and the first one, Strongest Deja Vu, feels like the moment of build-up. It feels like him carrying himself, starting from the ground with his arms dragged and his shoulders down, kind of looking at the industry, saying, what can I do to set myself apart? What does Saantsi have that can spice up the game? And he rises to that with so much power and so much aggression and virility, and he does rise to the occasion, no homo, in ways that are super alluring and captivating to listen to. One, Cat has what I think all trap artists aspire to do. He's got that switch up where you can't even tell he's fucking South African. The way he swings his drawl around, the way his tongue moves, it's beyond the twang. I don't know what to call it. You know, in that case, I say a twang. I must cover city twang. Yeah, from the term trap. Twang. That's interesting to listen to, because the fact is, you listen and you think to yourself, how does somebody perfectly mimic something that well? So well that you can't even feel his own culture in it. And the benefit of that is that if niggas told me Saantsi was from Georgia, I would say that, oh, of course he is. But because I know that he's from Port Elizabeth, something about that leaves me thinking, where's the Port Elizabeth in this? What is Port Elizabethness? And Saantsi basically navigates through The Strongest Deja Vu, talking about the simplistic rap tropes of being young, wild, going through life, trying to boost up your own morale and understanding your own value and self-importance in an environment of people who don't seem to give you the respect you needed, and also acknowledging the strides that you've taken. Because as a rapper, one of my homies, who I'm not going to mention, told me that, hey, you should see Kid perform. He's one of the most professional, one of the most downright enthralling performers to see. He comes through, whole set is planned from beginning to end. It's a show. And it's aspects like this that show you that Saantsi is definitely marked all the ticks. His image is on point, his exterior, his approach, his slang or twang as we now call it is really up there, and everything about him just screams, make me famous. And you think to yourself, God damn it, why isn't he already famous? And I'll tell you why he isn't already famous. There's too much of what he is already out there. And I think the love for what he does is always going to be admired, because of course nothing slaps as good as hearing somebody do a great rendition of something you're into. And that's what Saantsi is. He follows the tradition of grand master mimics, the tradition of the Nasty C's and the Aries, cats who are able to identically fit in to where the global world is right now with so much accuracy that you can't even tell that they're from Africa. But it harms them, because when it is important for them to do mention that they are from Africa, nobody noticed. When it's important for them to explain how they're from Africa, nobody gives a shit. And when it's important for them to distinguish themselves because they're from Africa, it's impossible to do, because they started off on the foot of not even reflecting that in any of their music. So yeah, there's references here and there to a little bit of Isikosa, but for the most part, the first part of this 2-chapter story tells the story of a young kid completely drowning in the internationalism of pop culture. And again, this is not a bad thing, but if you're going to navigate that way, you're going to have to understand the challenges which I mentioned on earlier on. And I think how he answers that is he opens the possibility to inviting a little bit of the authenticity in the second project. Children of the Mud really speaks to something that The Strongest Deja Vu didn't address. The Strongest Deja Vu literally feels like, I've heard this before, like The Strongest Deja Vu. It feels like the deja vu that beckons and kind of takes you to what everybody else who's noteworthy is doing right now, which is mimicking Americanism. So maybe that's not his intention in naming it the Strongest Deja Vu, but god damn it, the strongest deja vu about the trap music coming out right now, including this project, is that it reminds you of anything but this country. With everything that we're going through, with ESCOM and a president that is really ambivalent about our social issues and how that affects culture, pop culture, art, the economy. None of this is really evident in the way that these rappers tell the story. And maybe it's not because that's not Saantsi and a whole lot of artists like him's whole point. For them, it's about the moment, having fun, and going to wherever this wave takes them. And where it takes them is in examining the importance of who they are. And on Children of the Mud, I think he kind of thinks to that. He says, a lot of cats be saying I sound American, but I want to show them, then I'm from the soil, yo. He kind of echoes to the concept that Pretty Ugly was referring to earlier on. Si ngumzo nzundu, si ngabantu who come from umhlaba namanzi, which is metaphorically indicative of this mythological understanding of our flow and our integrity, our culture and our history. So does he dote on Children of the Mud? Does Saantsi even have an inkling of his authentic indigenous context? Let's check it out. So as I said, previous project, Strongest Deja Vu. There's heavy hitting songs there, my personal favorite being Land of the Lost with MCs like Mlamli, and how it kind of profiles around Saantsi and the crew he's part of, this new wave of trap artists who are navigating around what trap could be. But Saantsi is not one of those who you'd consider Xhosa trap. That's a completely different phenomenon. That's a movement of artists who step in the fundamental grounding of their individual authenticity. What they do is they say, I'm Xhosa before I'm trap. But what Saantsi and artists like Saantsi do is they say, I'm trap before I'm Xhosa. And I think in the second project, which is Children of the Mud, he kind of says, well, if I'm trap before I am Xhosa, then what happens to Xhosa Bam? What is it to me? How does it float around in the orbit of my imagination? And what I seem to be getting from this is that it's simply a reference of history. It's something that you happen to be attached to in your body in ways that are inescapable because of your DNA, nesituko sakho, nendlela ozozitsala ngayo, nabazali bakho, nezinto ezikubuyisa back to isiko, izithethe, the things you were told to do and not to do by your parents, who you probably think are old stuffy people who need to just get a life because now you're in the new world. I'm not saying Saantsi is dismissive of his history, but I'm saying Saantsi seems to be dismissive of his history. I'm saying that there's a seeming sense of not carrying across a new Africanness, a new flavor to what it means to be African in the 21st century, in the days of TikTok. Because I think being African is a constantly evolving concept. You don't have to be Xhosa the way your parents were Xhosa, but it doesn't change the fact that you are. And the navigation around you being Xhosa and still being trap and still being hip-hop and all of these things, what makes it all the more interesting. And when you go deep into how to move around all of these identities that you associate yourself with, then like that car outside, you're able to boom with an amazing engine that thrusts you forward with life and in a way that you can really make an impact. Now, Children of the Mud, is it simply the aesthetic and the theme that ties it to culture, or does it go in? Here's the one thing, there's a deliberate sense to rap amongst Xhosa here. Tracks like Epai really shine out how fucking good of an MC Saantsi could be if he rapping his Xhosa a whole lot more. And how those shining moments where there's still that American twang, but goddammit, not even your fucking Trippie Redd would be able to duplicate this because it has to do with something that you authentically come from. And I can't help but be a champion for these kind of moments. I can't help but think that which trick would you rather play to? The tricks that Americans can do, or the tricks that only you and people like yourself can do? And I think in navigating the global power, if you're an artist, and I think Saantsi is an artist who cares about commercial viability, are you going to present yourself in ways that are leaning more on other people's strengths or yours? Because I think none of the thing that makes him so interesting None of the whole Americanized flavor is what's going to set him apart. And I think it's in tracks like Epai where he starts to become a little bit more proud of the nuances that are unique to him. And I mean, yo, call me a fundamentalist, but I think this is what it boils down to. Not rapping or trapping is Xhosa, but rapping or trapping in ways that reference your world, in ways that talk about things only people from your universe could understand, in ways that they could understand. Because I think a lot of the times, for me, the politics of rap music is simple. And I think we have to do an episode on this.
Okay.
And this is what it's gonna be titled: Rap How You Speak. Because for me, it's as simple as that. The way you speak to yourself are your thoughts. And I often wonder if a lot of these cats think like that. Like, yo, damn man, my mom cooked some no-show, but I'm thinking of having a sandwich. And just to your own, you know? Yeah. Or do you say, if it's, and I know, you know, like, the inner voice that you use, why can't that be the external voice we hear on the mic? And I think it's this dissonance of not rapping how you speak, internally or externally, that kind of subjects a lot of young talented artists to a more globalist aspiration to relate to their heroes, but not relate to their own inner code. And that inner code, that's a password nobody can crack, fam. That's a password that nobody can cap on other than yourself. And I think a lot of these artists are still capping on their own identity, lying to themselves about what it takes to be famous, to be acknowledged, and to be understood. Because the love you're getting right now is the love of being in proximity with what people know. It's a colonial love. It's that love white people give you when they say, wow, you speak better than most of them. It's that love that white people say when they say, Sipo, you're not like most blacks. It's that love that you get when you are being welcomed into a group of people who don't even love you for who you are, but love you for how much you can play by their rules. So Saantsi is a great artist, great flavor, great hype, great charisma, all the ticks that it takes to become a great trap artist, superstar / pop icon. But the authenticity that has been constantly failing this generation, led by leaders like Aries and Nasty C, who just look right now, look at the predicament they're in right now. Look at where the Americanism takes you. How far can you go with that? I'm literally putting it out there as a prophecy that neither Aries nor Nasty C is going to reach the ceiling of real, true, iconic culture, because they're playing according to rules that they aren't determining. And I'm here to say that if you look at the artists who've accomplished and expressed the most, they've had elements of being proud of who they are. Take a leaf out of the Trevor Noah book. Take a leaf out of the book of people in every practice, whether it's being actors or anything in the media. And if you want to do the same with music, if you want to penetrate into that, from the SAMA market to the BET market, all the way to the Grammy market, if you feel like that's your trajectory, understand how you can do that is not by playing according to J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar and Drake's strengths. It's by doing something that neither K-Dot, neither Cole or Drake could never do, which is just be yourself. And on that note, I want to give both of these projects individually Strongest Deja Vu with its blazing beats. And as I said in the beginning of this review, the beauty about Saantsi is that a single moment becomes a lifetime. And sonically, both of these projects fit perfectly into what's up right now. But they're average. It's a 5 out of 10 for both, and it probably means it's a 10 out of 10 if I put them both together. But not really, because as a whole conceptual scheme, this whole thing becomes yet another average attempt at a South African artist at peeking into a global market by doing something which doesn't immediately resonate with who they are. I'm going to use a very important example lastly. Look at Anati. He's not even that good of a rapper. But his instrumentals, his approach to this, him having rubbed shoulders with the DJ Khaleds, him having made songs for the Beyoncés, places him in a position where he decided to go back to his roots and give us songs about talking to his ancestors. Now, if we are learning from people who are at the top of the top and are doing that, I don't know what we're learning from. My name is Vijay, the brother from the ancient mother. This is the Headspace. We can do better.